Hi, Matt Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I'm here with two friends of mine, Jeff Williams, who's the CEO of Worldwide Tech Connections, and also Monique DeMeo, who runs marketing for the company. Hi, welcome, folks.
Thank you for having us, Ed.
It's real nice to have you here.
It's our pleasure.
We're going to start with the boss. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you guys do at the company.
So Worldwide Tech Connections was put together to help people effectively communicate around the world. Myself, I have an entertainment background as well as a computer background, and one of the things you notice when you travel is that people don't always have accessibility to information. And so if they do get it, they don't get it correctly. So that was one of the things that we wanted to do, make sure that we took an approach of understanding that language begins speech to speech, not text to something. And so people communicate that way, and then we wrote it. So right now, most things that they do right now are text to something versus speech to speech. So inclusion allows that, as well as we make sure that everything's available for the deaf, the blind, and the deafblind.
Wow, that is incredible. Monique, you're the marketing person. Did you come up with language as a service? I love that
with some help
moniker.
with some help with Jeff's team. Yes, it is exactly that, because it layers on top of what somebody already has and allows them to communicate globally in a way that they've never imagined, because it has context and it has intelligence and it has the ability to understand the nuances of a dialect, which has never been done before, and it's all in one place.
Let's go back a little bit. I gotta start with you, Jeff. If I go back far enough, these are not technologies that were available. Not too far back, you couldn't do any of this.
Right.
What changed? Is it the algorithms, the computing? What's changed?
Well, of course, the accessibility of the internet's allowed people to live in a small community nowadays. So that accessibility can help you allow to grab the best things of the world and coordinate them under one platform. One of the issues or limitations that people have, of course, is to be able to get to those. Licensing may not be available in your country. So so we license by having sub offices around the world to guarantee the highest accuracy of any leech speech technology together.
Monique, take me through who some of the customers are here. Like, who are you guys selling? And give us a little sales pitch too. I'd love to hear the sales pitch.
So I think we're redefining the way people communicate globally. I mean, at the end of the day, when you have a group of, whether it's in education or you have first responders or you have financial services, everyone understands that people that work for them, with them, parallel to them, partnering with them, they all have language barriers that they need to overcome. Whether you're in say technology, right? You've got anything that has compliance or regulatory implications, you must be compliant. Now you're forced to offer the same services and the same rigor of education to people who may not have English as a first language. Now, English is not my first language, so I understood what it was like to come to the United States and have no services whatsoever and just be thrown to the wolves, if you will. Now it's really lovely that is not the way it is, and that universities and even public education has to offer the same services to people whose language is not primarily English. Having said that, that puts an enormous strain on the administration, on the teachers, on the process, on the first responders, the nurse who brings somebody into ER. They can't communicate in Farsi. What do you do now? The guy's dying. Oh my God. So you pull out your Google Translate, and your Google Translate, instead of a there, gives you a there, and instead of a what, gives you a who. And it's not contextual. It's certainly not compliant. So all these things create an urgency to do it properly, to do it in language, in dialect, in that moment, and accurately. And that's what I think. That's why I'm so excited to work with these guys. They're fabulous.
Jeff, how hard is it to do this?
In what way?
Well, algorithmically, like it seems like I know French was your first language. I'm guessing that French to maybe one of the other Romance languages might be somewhat adjacent.
Yeah.
Right.
But French to Chinese, not so much, or French to Farsi. I'm guessing some of this has got to be a little tricky.
It's a definite orchestration of information. You have to be looking at your source material. You have to be based on everything we also have is geolocation. So we actually make assumptions based on the location of the person or their profile that they've put together. So we can expand services and capabilities in that direction. But like you said, in complex language structures, one of the ways that we attack it that's completely different is the fact that we use entire sentences. So like in Russian, if you are, the verb isn't until the end. So if you don't get to the end, all the values of the words are incorrect. So, and every language has a different number of letters and words. So because of that, there may not be a word in Chinese that explains your French word. So that's where interpretation has to come in. So we've actually been able to establish a workflow that also can interpret, expand algorithm, the acronyms inside that algorithm as well.
How do you see people using the technology? Like, what are typical ergonomic type scenarios that they'd be using? Like, are they talking to their mobile? Are they talking to each other through some
so
intermediary?
Currently we've been basically B2B or enterprise B. And so we are in school systems here in the United States. And so the teacher speaks at the front on a lavalier mic, goes to a Scarlett 2i2, which you have right over there, goes to the computer, goes up to the cloud, and there's nothing to download. So they get a tokenized session for the student. They click the button, and now they have accessibility in text-to-speech, so like Siri and language,
right.
as well as they get bilingual text. So not only helps the student understand information that right now they don't understand. They say the average person when they come to the United States learns languages from closed captioning because we're visual, we're not auditory. And so having that caption going is going to allow people to be engaged, but it's also a full learning strategy. So I think one of the hardest parts with languages is that you may speak one, but how often do you speak it? Are you going to be able to retain that? And so we've also seen a huge rise in being able to help people stay bilingual, which of course is going to expand their job capabilities.
You need to go over and sell this at the UN, right? This is exactly right?
This is
We actually
exactly
have
it. Yes.
Yep. We have a meeting with them, so yeah.
Well, I hope
Funny
they
Next
you
do.
bring
month.
that up.
Funny
Our
that you brought it up.
entire world, hinges on getting those nuances
Yes.
right. I always wonder about
Seriously,
that.
did you ever wonder about a politician sitting
Yes.
next to an interpreter, sitting next to another politician?
Totally.
They could actually create world wars
course.
by having a nuance incorrect, right?
That should be part of the sales
Well,
pitch, right?
Well, and of course, one of the things that we're able to do is we're able to take that interpreter and you can follow it in real time what they're saying on behalf of you. So the people that have got to those levels, they're normally very articulate. They're just not articulate in that language. So making sure that the person is representing you properly or interpreting you properly is also just part of our service set.
You ever worry about hackers?
No.
I would imagine there might be some security issues that pop up from time to time.
Well, one of the things that we first did to make sure that we had a great delivery platform is we worked originally with the Department of the Interior Office of Secretary out of Colorado to make sure we had a robust delivery platform. On top of that, we work with Certainty to help be able to protect our data.
Data security company.
Correct, to be able to take out the middleman, so that way when people have that speech to text or that file, that it can be sent and we can guarantee the delivery and what's been seen and not seen. As well as we also, one of the things that makes us different, or several things, but one of the main things that makes us different is the personal information. So we're able to extract all the P&I, the name, phone number, address, social security number, and all that. And it actually stays and lives in your browser. Everything else is shot up for translation, comes back, it is collated when it receives back in. That's how we're HIPAA and COPA and FERPA compliant.
Monique, is this market, is this something that's going to, in some sense, just continue to burgeon? I know it's growing.
Absolutely.
I have a background. I worked at Bell Labs for my whole
There you
career,
go,
so I
right.
know a lot
So
about
you
speech
get that, right?
and so on. And I remember seeing it growing then, but it seems like it's finally come into its own. You see
yes.
that as continuing?
Absolutely. This is a hockey stick right here. This is an absolute hockey stick. Think about your everyday life. Think about how you transact in your world. Think about when you go to the store, when you go out to dinner, when you go out to any place that you transact with a human, and just notice how much more global that person and that exchange has become. And if you look at that as a small sort of microcosm of what is happening in the world, you see that we are absolutely a global environment. We are absolutely that melting pot. It's not just the United States, it's everywhere. It's whether it's your landscaper, whether it's your server, whether it's your accountant, whether it's your financial services, your whomever it is, that person has a global connection in some way, shape, or form that if you unearth that and you leverage that will become a more meaningful connection. That's what we enable, meaningful connections. And by the way, meaningful connections that save lives. PS.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because if you're on the stretcher and you can't speak the language of the surgeon, darn man, you're in deep.
Yeah,
you
it
know what,
doesn't
right?
sound so good. Let me ask you about artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So, first question is, the second one's going to be where are we going with all this? But first,
Right.
do you use it in product now? Or there's some other-
100%. I mean, the
How does it work?
well, so artificial intelligence is our back end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's constantly curating, updating. Just in the English language alone, 4,500 words a year change. I mean, it was bad to be bad, now bad
And
is
you need
good.
to train on that.
Right, you know, it used to be on fire, was stop, drop, and roll, and now it's like a bet, you know, now it's good. And so you have to keep that context. So if you say execute, do you mean to kill or do you mean to begin? So each company has a different variable for each one of those words, because a word can have multiple meanings. And so that artificial intelligence is able to maintain the profile based on that. So like if you use like an IBM or Google or one of those, they're context engines. So because of that, you get the value of that word based on search results. So if someone says cane, the number one use is walking cane. So you'll probably get that unless somebody was searching sugar cane, or too many people were on Cain and Abel from the Bible. So it's like the same, so you have to understand that context. And then for the same scenario of like shingles. Shingles, do you mean housing or is it medical? So every sentence could actually exchange the value of that word. So for us, the artificial intelligence allows us to maintain the value of those words, as well as to expand those acronyms that we ingest through information from our clients.
A lot of people talk about AI maybe getting, at some point, out of control. Like you see Elon Musk and some of these other guys talking about that. You ever worry? Do you have those thoughts at all, or you think they're overblowing it a little bit?
I think the problem with AI always will be the fact that it's man-made.
Yeah.
So it's only as good as the person who put it together. So
Right.
it's really
I
not.
agree with that,
It's really
by the
not a
way.
change because people are still making the choices. It's just the defined choices, the ones that you have, they're not going to pivot the choice.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that allows a person, I think, is that overview of continuous information that changes. So until the algorithms can also ingest that information in a real-time scenario and think the way you would, I think that at least you have a standard. It's already a guarantee of what the response is going to be because it's been created to do that, and that's all it's allowed to do.
Yeah. Is cloud infrastructure an important part of your overall architecture?
100%.
Yeah.
So his delivery, making sure that that heavy lifting of that speech to text or that text to text or that text to speech can be leveraged. For us, we've gone to a .NET Core. So that way it would be fully containerized and moved along how we need. So then that way, if a request is happening in Europe, it'll push out from there versus the United
That makes
States.
sense. Now, does everybody in the company speak 80 different languages? So you guys all
There's a lot of
celebrate every international holiday? And,
We are definitely diverse in our group. We actually have, our technology is created here in the U.S., also in Colombia, and also in India. So we have a 24-hour development cycle.
Wow.
But our chief linguistics officer speaks 10 languages.
10 languages.
And knows the grammar of 30 from living in 15 different countries, and then has a team underneath her to support. Because most people are not looking at what does an interpreter really do and what does a linguistics person go. So they mainly, as technologists, we just go to search maybe what's called a blue score to tell you what the best technology is. But the problem is you're going to buy one license of Microsoft, and they're good in maybe a couple of those languages, but they're not good in all their languages. So if you want Hebrew, don't even go to anything that's US-based.
I'm so jealous of you guys being so. Like when I first heard what you were doing, I thought all these languages. I went, oh, okay, but Python, Java.
Right, exactly. Right.
We do speak those too.
So not, that. When my grandparents came over, all four from Italy, they were embarrassed to speak Italian.
Yeah, I heard,
Right.
I
So
hear
they
that a
didn't
lot.
speak. So we weren't allowed.
Yeah,
We
I hear that a lot.
just didn't want anybody to even know that they had any ethnicity whatsoever. So it's a shame. I think you guys are doing a wonderful thing with your capability, especially the medical and first
Yeah, that's the
responder
thing,
cases.
yeah.
Those are inspiring.
Yeah, it's been exciting to me because we're interfacing or been front facing with a lot of that part of the sector, and the problem is that they can't determine the language. So they use a normal, like a language line or Appropriate or something to get those languages, which is a live service. But the problem is that it'll take minutes, 3 to 10 minutes on average, to set something like that up. And in a critical situation, that's a problem. So we have software that can actually take a 2-second audio clip of you speaking, and in any of our 70 languages, it can make a determination of your language and set it up within seconds.
Wow.
I think the beautiful thing, I
exciting.
just want to segue off something you just said, Jeff, and it's really important from a B2B perspective. When you can layer this onto an enterprise or an organizational software or technology stack. So when you do that, it takes the friction of embedding that away. It also takes the friction of usage away. So if the doctor is used to going into his electronic medical records system or his CRM system or his CMS system or whatever system she is used to using, it becomes just an enhancement rather than a stopping point, right? So that's really the beauty of it, is that you conduct your life as you always do, but it just allows you to do it in such a more meaningful and much more robust and more effective manner. So you're not only compliant, but you're doing good.
It is good
And
stuff.
you're not being exclusive, you're being inclusive.
Right.
Well, I appreciate the work you're doing. Monique and Jeff,
you.
thank you so much for stopping by our studio here in New York.
Thanks for having
It
us.
was
Thank you,
wonderful
Ed.
speaking with both of you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you
Thanks
for having us.
coming by. And we will see you next time.